Welcome to episode 1 of the solo reclaimer series I want to be doing, and this is going to be kind of just going over my kind of day-to-day routine with salvaging. It's probably a lot less than it used to be when the patch first came out. I've bought so many ships this patch because of the income from this ship. I do believe that the whole salvage reclaimer process will be nerfed. I've kind of been saying that since the patch dropped and all this high income kind of started circling around the meta. But before, I was doing probably like an hour out here in the reclaimer on the illegal hammerhead missions and stacking 8 to 20 or 8 to 10 million in value. But I've kind of brought that down a little bit, and that's a lot of that has to do with the fact that I've already gotten a lot of the ships that I've already been kind of interested in. Everything else, I think the only really expensive ship that I have left by this patch with Alpha UEC is the Carrack, which I want to say is like 26 million, but I mean that's like a couple of hours, like a 2.5 hours of reclaimer salvaging to get that, which I don't really have a big use for that ship right now, so I'm kind of holding off on it. So a lot of the stuff I've been kind of purchasing and testing and stuff like that have been much cheaper acquisitions, but I still do enjoy the process, and I think that my main goal moving forward is just going to be stacking as much Alpha UEC as possible, and that is kind of like a twofold thing for me. I'm able to test out a lot of ships and get a pretty good perspective on how a bunch of different stuff handles. I think, like for instance, I probably would have never gotten into flying a Eclipse if it wasn't for just salvaging and the reclaimer and stuff like that. I mean, that ship is 3 million, and I don't necessarily do a whole lot of bounties anyway. And I don't think I would have ever that ship would have probably been off my radar for the most part. As you can see here, my strategy for stacking is pretty much still the same. The first 10, 16 SCU boxes get grid locked. That's just for stability. I like just having that 160 there on the grid. This server, when I was doing this run, this server was really laggy. These filler stations were taking a long time to kind of spit stuff out, which ended up kind of inflating the amount of time I was out there. But we're only going to do in this episode like 2 hammerheads. We're going to try to keep it pretty modest in terms of expectations. If anybody else is also out there running reclaimers and kind of wants to follow this series and all that stuff, then yeah, I think 2 to 3 hammerheads is perfectly fine. I have noticed a lot of people on Reddit and on other YouTube stuff and everything have been talking about not doing the illegal hammerhead missions, or like the illegal salvage missions. Now those are the missions that are in the personal tab, and that either have risky or like the hammerhead stuff. I don't do the ones that start with the word risky because, one, instead of an hour you have like 30 minutes, and they do require you to pay a fee up front to have access to it. So if I'm going to pay a fee, I'm just going to go do like the regular general contracts that are kind of all over the verse, because you're going to be you're not going to be hassled all that much. I think the big motivation for telling people not to do the illegal stuff is, especially like the hammerhead stuff, because they're all around Yila, and Grim Hex is in the asteroid belt of Yila. So what I have noticed is there's been a lot of, as this gameplay loop has become more saturated in the meta, the PvPers and stuff like that have started to really camp the belt around Yila to just kind of mess with reclaimers and stuff like that. And I think that's probably one of the biggest things. People are kind of starting to shy away from running the hammerheads here. My process has only changed a little bit. I haven't had any issues with anybody coming up on me when I'm actually fracturing or disintegrating. The thing is, you gotta realize the biggest enemy to the reclaimer is gonna be like the Eclipse. The Eclipse will be able to get like 4K from you, and you won't be able to see it. And they'll be able to lock you out to like 15K and fire a torp at you, or they'll probably be able to fire all 3 torps at you without you even knowing they're there. And a lot of that has to do with the Reclaimer's EM signature. The Reclaimer's EM signature is like 40,000. So that means that they can, essentially lock you all the way out to 40k, if their detection was that good. So I think a lot of people have been, as it's become more of a popular game loop, a lot more people have moved away from Yila and stuff, which I don't, it doesn't bother me. I think if you're going to go out there and do multiple, 8 or so hammerheads back to back, you would probably be in the vicinity long enough to kind of spark some interest. If you're going out there and just doing 1 or 2, then you're not really going to be on anybody's radar, essentially. The other reason I like doing the hammerhead ones is because it's kind of like an insurance policy. So the reward for that mission is kind of like the failsafe there. If you suffer like a 30k, or if you get interdicted, or you lose your ship or whatever, in normal missions where you're paying a fee, you're going to come away with essentially a negative equity on that. I like the hammerhead missions because if I do decide to go out there and do 3, 6, or even 8 hammerheads, if I lost that cargo, I at least got 250,000 for every one of those hammerheads that I fractured, so I don't walk away with nothing if something happens that's beyond my control, like a disconnect or whatever the case may be, interdiction, somebody blows me up, which hasn't happened. I haven't actually had any problems in the Reclaimer. I have noticed in other types of play that I've been doing, a lot of PvP kind of starting to resurface. I got interdicted the other day, and which was the first time I got interdicted in probably like a year. So the good strategy or the advice I can give you for interdiction is just don't take popular routes, like straight shot routes from like Crusader to Area 18 or ArcCorp, or Crusader to Hurston, or Hurston to ArcCorp. Like those are going to be very popular interdiction channels. Use the stations kind of around the areas to kind of bounce around. Also, just to kind of keep off of radar too, what I normally do is I will fracture and disintegrate these hammerheads, and then I'll either, depending on where I am around Yila, around the belt, I'll either pick Daymar. I'll pick one of the moons in Crusader, and I'll quantum warp to it for like half a second or a second, and then drop out, which puts me far enough away from Yila to not be on like the normal Grim Hex kind of PvP area and stuff like that. It's just going out into deep space to do processing. Then I can sit here and I can worry about stacking and doing whatever. But as you can tell, I don't really worry too much about stacking. I mean, once the initial 160 SCUs is locked to the grid, I do my best to kind of evenly stack them the best I can. But for the most part, I'm not just trying to do anything crazy. I'm not trying to make them perfect, because it really doesn't matter. You can fit like 8 hammerheads in just this one room. You can actually fit like 10, but it gets really dicey when you get to like 9 and so. But if you're going out there and doing like 4, I like 4 hammerheads is a good number, because that's like, you earned $1 million for the fee or for the reward, and then you have a decent amount. Like 4 would probably be like 6 or even 7 million once you sold the CMAT, and then utilizing the balcony and everything. But we're just going to start stacking Alpha UAC like crazy. I'm going to try to show you guys as much as I can for this Solar Reclaimer stuff and all of that. But we're going to go ahead and finish this up. I came to Lorville here to sell everything in the Reclaimer, just because I had to come here and get some ships and kind of manage my inventory and everything. I've been spending pretty much all of my Alpha UEC as I've been getting it, just for getting different ships and stuff like that to kind of do content with. So let's go ahead and see what our haul is looking like. And we did 2 hammerheads, which is very, very low key, and that was only like maybe like 30 minutes or so. So this is our non-grid. It's worth about 2 million, which is good to go, which is nice because I gotta buy some ships. And this is what's on the grid, the 160 SCU, which is almost always 960. So I spent all my cash down to about $500,000, and so now we're back up to 3 million and some change. So that works out just well. enough. But yeah, this series is going to be essentially just showing me kind of going through the Solar Reclaimer process and kind of just earning alpha UEC and then just kind of buying crazy stuff and doing whatever. There's probably going to get to a point pretty soon that I'll just be stockpiling all of the currency with no real intent on spending it. I think it would be interesting to see how much alpha UEC I can get in a single kind of patch cycle. So we might actually end up looking at that as the overall goal here. But thank you for watching. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, keep an eye out for episode 2 in this series, and we'll get back out there and do even more salvaging in Star Citizen. Peace out.